Show. My name is Catherine NGOVI and this is my sign name, and today we have a very interesting guest. Hello.
Hi.
Maybe will you tell us something about yourself and also your name?
My name is Esther KENDI, KENDI K. That's how I'm identified. Yes. I don't think I can add anything more. What can I say about myself? I wouldn't really add about my age, but I'm a young Kenyan girl who's also a sign language interpreter and also trying to find herself in this chaotic world.
Oh, that is interesting. Maybe would you tell us how does it feel working at Science TV?
For me, I feel, let me say, it's a good opportunity. Looking out here, many people complain of finishing school, not having jobs, all these struggles. Maybe they learned about well in the campus or something. Then coming out here, they're doing a totally different thing. In the name of I didn't get the opportunity to do that. So for me, I really feel happy and I'm really privileged, let me say, to be working, and I'm really happy at my age to be getting something for myself. That's a very good, a big deal for me.
Oh, that is really nice. I'm so happy for you, Kendi. So now I want to know, you said you went to the university. While you're in the university, what did you study?
Let me say, for me, I didn't really, after I finished Form 4, I didn't really go directly to study. At first I wanted to do special needs education, but I soon realized education is not my calling. So I quickly left it. I also did, but I studied sign language to become a sign language interpreter. But I'm hoping soon to maybe go back and try to find something that I'm going to major in and further my education in. Yes.
Okay, that is nice. And also you said you learned sign language. What was your main goal when learning sign language? What did you want to achieve?
Personally, I will say what actually inspired me, or what actually made me want to even learn sign language, and that was the whole reason why I was doing special needs education. I thought when I do special needs education, I'll get to learn sign language at the end. Then I'm told you don't need to do the full course for you to learn sign language. You can just learn sign language directly. And what really made me learn sign language was one, I remember when I was young, I'd really learned the alphabets and the few signs here and there. So there's a time we were really interacting with some deaf people in school when I was in high school. And it was actually a big deal that I actually don't really know sign language. I don't understand sign language. But when they say something, my fellow friends are asking me to interpret for them. And I'm looking at them like, I only know A up to Z. I don't even understand the language easily. But it was easier for me to communicate and understand. So when you are actually having a conversation, it was easier for me to grasp what was being said. So that actually made me really want now to major and make sure I'm really communicating, I'm really understanding, and we're able to have a conversation. That really pushed me to really want to learn sign language.
Wow, that is good. So now you say that when you met the first time you met a deaf person, or can you tell us your first experience when you met a deaf person?
I was so young because my cousin was deaf. And these are those cousins where you really had a good relationship with them. Then my cousin really loved me and my brother. So it was actually, it wasn't, let me say, I can't remember the first time, but I just knew, I had a cousin of mine who's deaf. So each and every time we would interact, she would come, bring us snacks and all that. So it was just like, let me say, a normal interaction. It wasn't so different for me, because many times in December, after we've closed school, I was in boarding school, so after we've closed school, we used to come, maybe having a party. It was just, let's just interact. Yeah, it wasn't I wouldn't say I had any big or shock or anything. It was just, for me, it was just a normal interaction, just like meeting any other person. So you just have to find a way to communicate with them.
Okay, that's really nice. Something I didn't know. Also, I want to know how can you tell us about how do you love about the youth and something about it?
I feel on the topic of youth and love life, I think at this age and time, a lot is happening to us as youth. When it comes to the lifestyle that people are having, when it comes to the love life that people are having, but I feel like it starts when we get to age 12 in high school, in primary school, and then we are at the adolescent stage where people can maybe engage in love in the name of ule ni chalia nani, ule ni chalia nani, in a joking way. But then again, we get to high school, and by the time people are getting to 16, some people experience love life, let me call it love life, in a real way. They actually now want to have love relationships, and the love in relationships sometimes at particularly that age they start being engaged, they become sexually active. So I feel the youth and lifestyle of theirs, by the time they're 18, 19, 20, 21, they feel like they know it all. But, and me personally, I can speak as a youth, at this, there are some things when you've just grown a little bit, you feel like you don't want to hear about them. You feel like, this person is disturbing me. I'm grown, I'm mature, I know about them. But what we don't really understand is the challenges that comes with them. You find someone at a very young age, at 16, and those ages, they have a heartbreak. You're looking at them like, heartbreak. We're all young and all that. So I feel like if you look at social media now, many people and many of us youths, we are really displaying, let me say, our love relationships. And at the end of the day, when you look at it generally, they're not really turning out so well and so perfect. And what we're not really understanding is we can't really understand this whole thing called love life, because we as youth, we're experiencing this drama. And our role models who are supposed to be grown, they also have the same drama, meaning we're just copying what the elder society are doing. Role model that involving love, as we are saying, and engaging in them.
So maybe what advice would you give to the youth in terms of relationship wise?
Let's say something like but I can't even advise them because that's the normality that we have right now. So I'm saying having the youth engage maybe relationships with older men and all that, they've become another norm. So I can't really advise or explain anything to them because everyone has their own journey. There are some people who get love at this very young age, grow till the older age. Some people will just trial and failure, try. Ikikata, you try again. Ikikata, you try again. So I feel like the lifestyle that we youth are engaging, some of us are trial and errors. Some of us are not trial and errors. Some of us they get to love the person and stick with them. If you look at the men in the society now, cheating has become a normality to the point they are competing who's doing it better. So at the end of the day, we have to be careful and try and think of you yourself, think of the journey that you want to have, and try and focus on that rather than engaging in things because you're seeing them in the society, you're seeing them on social media. People are doing something, maybe people have a relationship, they want to post it on social media. So you're looking for a relationship that you want to feel it's good for you to post on social media. So I can't really say I can advise my fellow youth on something, but I'll really just try and tell each and every person, make sure when the journey that you're in, it's your own, not something you're seeing on someone else or copying other people or anything.
What if a man wants to have, an older man wants to have a relationship with you? How do you go about it?
I personally okay, what's the age of an older man?
Maybe like between 20 to 50?
50. Hey. 20 to 25, that's acceptable for me because we are kinda in the same age limit. But yeah, I think that's quite acceptable. 20 to 30ish, that's acceptable because the age difference is not that much. But depending on a person, there's some people who will be like, this particular age is too much for them or anything. But I feel like we get to know a lot about, or as we are told, we get so mature enough when you get to the age of 25, we as women. So at the end of the day, maybe at this point, you're just going to try and develop yourself, build on yourself, make sure you've gotten to a point of, by the time you're getting to 25, you know what you want, you know what you don't want, you know what's acceptable to you, you know the type of man that you're willing to have, you know how to build a home. Rather than now, you find someone at 19, they claim to be married. At 19, I feel like we are too young for us to know how to build a home. And getting settled at 19 or 20 or even 18 in this generation of now is really even bringing a burden to we as girls. Because these are sometimes in most situations you find a very young girl, maybe at 19, maybe married to a maybe older person or even someone in a similar age. But then again, 2, 3 years, 5 years down the line, they become stuck because they did not take time to develop and build on themselves and identify what they want in a man and for themselves before they got to the level of being married and having children even in their relationship.
Also, do you agree when women marry, when women marry, do you agree if a young woman can marry a man who is a bit older or something? Do you agree with that?
I wouldn't say I actually
What's your
have.
idea?
I wouldn't say I have an objection, but it depends on the age. If this girl, you can say, if someone is 30, this is a woman who has grown, they have a life of themselves, they have matured enough. So at that age, it's acceptable. But in this young generation of the youth, personally, I would say from the life or from the environment I've grown up in, I've grown up in a boarding school most of the time. So you are mostly interacting with your mates. And when you go home, definitely you have these friends of yours, maybe from very different places. And something I've noticed, when you go to, let me say, the slum areas, the ghetto areas, you'll find that very, very many young girls at age 16 and around 17, before they finish high school, they really want to engage in relationships which are mature. In a way, you find this girl wants to explore everything, wants to get everything. Now, this girl can want to get an older man who has established himself for them to get everything they want. But in that setting, I will not really advise for it. But if it's a mature woman who knows what they want and they're getting an older man, that's acceptable for me. That's my opinion.
That is nice. Now we are going to go for a short break. We'll be back for more. From the time you're young up to now, tell us something about yourself, how you've grown and all.
Kendi, when I was young, I will say I've had a pretty, not so hard, I wouldn't say even challenging, I will say I've had a good life. I have a very, very stubborn brother who had to go to boarding school early. And he made sure I went to boarding school early because I couldn't stay home and deal with my parents. It was quite challenging for my parents watching me going to school each and every morning and coming back in the evening alone. So that made sure I went to boarding school early. I will say I've actually grown with my peers a lot because in a boarding school setting, you'll be in school for 3 months, you're coming home for a month. You're going to school for 3 months, you're coming home for a month. So for me, I will say I've really learned to work with everyone around me and then have a social relationship with people. Because if you look at it in a major way, everyone has their own journey. When you're young, you might go to this homestead, but you get to face a lot of challenges from that. So I will say I personally grew up from boarding school from class 3, went to a different school in class 4, then I stayed until class 8. I went to high school in boarding school. At this point, by the time I was getting to high school, if you tell me to go to a day school, it would have been so challenging. And another thing, from when I look back then, when you were young, you'll say maybe your parents had a problem, they didn't really care, that's why they sent you to boarding. But where I am right now and looking back, I feel like it has really, really helped me, because in the same society or with some of my friends who did not have the privilege to be in a hidden place, because when you're boarding, you're interacting with people from very different backgrounds, different understanding of life. So you get to learn a lot from them. And when you look at some of my peers, some of them have a very, very, very different lifestyle than I have. Some of them haven't been able to get enough opportunities to grow themselves, maybe because they really faced a lot of limitations. So I feel like it was a blessing which you didn't see at that time, because going to school each and every time, I remember from class 4 until class 8, the third term is when I didn't get homesick. I used to cry. I used to cry each and every day when we landed to school. The first day it was a natural thing to happen, but I remember when we were finishing class 8, the third term, we were finishing finally. So I didn't really have a homesick. And the school I was in, it was in Kombani. So one, the place is very hot. 2, all of you are shaving, so there's no difference between the girls and the boys. True. And another thing was, the school was very serious when it came to academics. So there was a lot of, if you don't perform, be sure you're going to face the music. So it was a very, very good thing for me. Now, when you look at it back then, it was like, tunateseka ishule, things need to change. But right now, when I'm looking back, I'm like, it was a good thing, because I feel like it has really helped me and shaped me in very, very many different ways.
That is really nice. Maybe would you have challenges, some brief challenges you've experienced in your life, or some
challenges? Okay, let me say, for a young girl going to boarding school, you don't really know how to take really good care of yourself. So at the end of the day, you find these minor challenges of losing things. I remember in a girl's situation, many girls who are in underprivileged settings, they really have to depend on someone who's older or a role model who will be able to check up on them and mentor them. So personally, I would say the challenge that I really experienced when I was young, growing up, was dealing with my self-esteem in one way or another. Because once you're with your peers, they'll make fun of you in one way, but they don't really understand how them making fun of you is affecting you. And a bad thing about me, from primary to high school, I really had a deep voice. So it was a really, really, really a challenge, because everyone used to say I'm a tomboy. So these people, they're here telling you you're a tomboy. On top of it, you have a very deep voice. So you're really associated with the boys a lot. So it wasn't really a big deal, but once you get into high school, you are a girl, they really are not expecting, there's this other society that are looking at you like, this girl is really different from us, so what do we think about it? It was really, really challenging for me to actually transition from being this girl they're calling a tomboy with a very deep voice to getting to where I am. And sometimes some people meet them and they're like, how did you even change? I was like, I wasn't even trying to be a tomboy. It was just, from home, you'll just be playing with everyone. If it's football, if it's different, riding bikes, just boy Now that's really affecting you, and people portraying you to be a tomboy. Wait, I was not really a tomboy. So that was a very, very big challenge for me. And I remember it got to a time when, at adolescent stage, when it was really, really, really hard for other people to even imagine that you are actually a girl, that you're going to grow one day. So it was a really, really big challenge, and everyone associating you with the boys. That I would say was the big challenge.
Wow. So maybe would you have something to advise the young youth who are watching you today?
The only advice I give from the perspective or from the walks of life that I've done, I've really worked with some friends in different areas, and I've really mostly in different ghettos. There's a place, Mukurubajenga, in South B. So there's a time me and my friends just chose to go try and empower some girls and all that. So the only advice I'll tell the youth and my fellow girls is, let's try and build ourselves. Because when you're young, we think becoming an adult is the best thing. And when you grow, you realize that adulting is quite hard and very challenging. So our program used to go meet our fellow friends and other people, and we will really try and advise them. We had a dance crew from a church. So we tried to go and mentor very young girls, because some of them had got into drugs, some of them we had very many cases of pregnancy, and they didn't just know what to do to take care of this child. They had a very big responsibility to take care of, and they were not able to do it. And one thing we don't really get to understand is being a young and being a parent is a very, 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 very big challenge, which until maybe it happens to you or you see the situation at first hand, you won't really understand it. So I will say, the advice I will give each and every person, try your best to a girl, try your best to build yourself. To the boy child who are always complaining that in this time the society has really neglected them, it's wachana na story ya society. If you feel like the society, they're not really empowering, empower yourself, or look for people who are going to empower you to get to your full potential, because the rate at which life is getting quite challenging, and at this rate everything is going to be more and more challenging. If you don't work on yourself, empower yourself, build yourself, it's just going to end up in a chaotic way. So I will really advise my youth, let's try and build ourselves before we involve in the other things in our life.
That was nice. Now, that was all our viewers. Thank you so much. We have had such a nice interaction, and I hope that you really understood, and also you have gotten the advice from our guest Kendi. I have been your host, Catherine NGOVI, and this is my sign-in, and my guest today was Kendi K. I hope you'll be here with me